6 months after the Battle of Nexus cluster, the galaxy was learning what victory looked like when humans were involved. The void swarm was extinct, completely wiped out down to the last microscopic fragment. But the cost of that victory was becoming clear to everyone who had asked for help. Ambassador Veltara stood on the observation deck of her ship, looking at what used to be the Kepler system. Before the war, it had 7 beautiful worlds with forests and oceans. Now it had 1 world with forests and oceans, and 6 industrial complexes that never stopped building human war machines. "The mining is proceeding ahead of schedule," reported the local human administrator, a cheerful woman named Colonel Hyajin. "We should have all useful materials extracted within 2 years." "What about the people who lived on those worlds?" Veltara asked. "Relocated to safer planets with full compensation," Hyajin said brightly. "Much better than being eaten by the swarm, do you not think?" Veltara could not argue with that logic, but it still felt wrong. The humans had not just saved the galaxy, they had claimed large pieces of it as payment for their services. Admiral Songmin was in his office aboard the Sol Supremacy when the final casualty reports arrived. The numbers were staggering even by human standards. 47,000 ships lost, reported Captain Minho. 3 million military personnel killed in action. Estimated cost in resources, enough to build 50,000 new planets. And the results? The void swarm is extinct. Every trace of their technology has been destroyed or captured. The galaxy is completely safe from their threat. Songmin nodded. From a military perspective, it was a perfect victory. The enemy was eliminated, human casualties were acceptable, and they had gained valuable territory and resources. But he knew the aliens saw it differently. "What are the aliens saying about our operations?" "They are grateful for being saved," Minho said carefully. "But some are concerned about our continued presence in formerly contested systems." "Concerned about what specifically?" "They think we are planning to conquer the galaxy." Songmin laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Captain, we just spent our entire military force saving their galaxy from extinction. If we wanted to conquer them, we would not have bothered fighting the swarm first. Should I tell them that? Tell them we are consolidating our defensive positions to prevent future threats. If they are concerned about our intentions, they should have thought about that before asking Deathworlders for help." Commander Nari was overseeing the construction of Fortress Luna 7, a military base built inside what used to be a peaceful moon. The facility was designed to manufacture and deploy planet-killer weapons on an industrial scale. "Why do we need such a large base?" asked the local alien governor, a nervous creature with too many tentacles. "Because space is big and full of potential threats," Nari replied. "The swarm was not the first hostile intelligence the galaxy has encountered. It will not be the last. But surely such powerful weapons are excessive." Nari looked at him with the patience of someone explaining obvious facts to a child. "Governor, 6 months ago, your people were about to be extinct. Today, you are alive, and complaining about the weapons that saved you. I would call that progress." The governor had no answer for that, but Nari could see the fear in his eyes. The aliens were learning that human protection came with a price they had not expected to pay. Dr. Yunji was working in her new laboratory on the research station, Sol's Discovery. Her current project was analyzing swarm technology to make sure no trace of the collective intelligence remained hidden anywhere in the galaxy. "Any sign of swarm activity?" asked her assistant, Dr. Jongsu. "Nothing," Yunji replied. "We were very thorough. The swarm is as extinct as we can make anything extinct." "Then why do we keep looking?" Yunji pointed to a display showing the locations of human fleets throughout the galaxy. Blue dots marked human-controlled systems, and there were a lot of them. "Because the aliens are starting to think we might be the next threat they need to worry about," she said. "And they might not be wrong." Jongsu looked confused. "But we saved them." "Yes, we saved them. But we also demonstrated that humans can mobilize military forces large enough to conquer the entire galaxy in a matter of months. Some aliens find that information disturbing." "Are we going to conquer the galaxy?" Yunji thought about that question for a long time. I do not think we want to conquer the galaxy, she said finally. But I am not sure it matters what we want. We have the power to do it, and everyone knows we have the power to do it. Sometimes that is the same thing. The Galactic Council was meeting in emergency session once again. But for the first time in months, they were not discussing an external threat. They were discussing their human allies. They control over 200 star systems, Council Leader Mordak said to the assembled representatives. They have more military force than the rest of the galaxy combined, and they show no signs of reducing their presence. They saved us from extinction, argued Ambassador Veltara. We owe them our lives. And now they own our lives, replied another council member. Look at these reports. The main screen showed economic data from human-controlled systems. Production was up by thousands of %. Military infrastructure was being built at incredible speed. Entire worlds were being converted into weapons factories. They are not just occupying territory, said the economic advisor. They are transforming it into the most powerful industrial base in galactic history. For what purpose? Unknown. But they could build a fleet capable of conquering every civilization in the galaxy within 5 years. Mordak felt older than his many years. Send a message to Ambassador Hyunwoo, he said. Request a meeting to discuss the future status of human-controlled territory, and if he refuses, then we will know where we stand. Ambassador Hyunwoo was still at his small office on the edge of human space when he received the council's message. He read it twice, then started laughing so hard that he had to sit down. His assistant, a young woman named So Young, looked concerned. Sir, is everything all right? The Galactic Council wants to negotiate the withdrawal of human forces from systems. We liberated from the Void Swarm, he said between laughs. That seems reasonable. So Young, do you know what those systems looked like before we arrived? No, sir. They were covered with swarm factories building ships to eat the galaxy. Now they are covered with human factories building ships to protect the galaxy. The Council wants us to abandon our defensive positions and let those systems return to, what? Empty space? What will you tell them? Hyunwoo thought about Admiral Songmin and the vast fleet that was still growing every day. He thought about the industrial bases that could replace any losses faster than enemies could inflict them. He thought about the human colonies that were now the most heavily defended worlds in the galaxy. I will tell them that we are open to negotiations, he said, but I will also tell them that we are not leaving. Will that not make them angry? Probably, but they should have thought about that before they asked us to save them. Captain Jin Ho was on patrol duty in the Outer Rim when his sensors detected something interesting. A small fleet of alien ships was approaching the edge of human space. They were flying in a formation that suggested peaceful intentions, but their weapons were armed. Unidentified fleet, this is Captain Jin Ho of the United Earth Defense Force, he broadcast. State your business in human space. This is Admiral Kratok of the Outer Rim Alliance, came the reply. We wish to speak with human authorities about the current situation. What situation is that? The situation where humans control half the galaxy and seem to be preparing for war with the other half. Jin Ho checked his tactical displays. His small patrol fleet was outnumbered 10-1, but that did not worry him. Human ships were built to fight against impossible odds. Admiral, human forces are maintaining defensive positions against future threats. We have no hostile intentions toward peaceful civilizations. Then why are you building planet-killer weapons? Because the next enemy might be worse than the Void Swarm. Would you prefer we be unprepared? There was a long silence on the communication channel. Finally, Admiral Kratok spoke again. Captain, may I ask you a question? Go ahead. Do you really believe the galaxy needs this level of protection? Jin Ho looked at his displays showing human fleet positions throughout local space. Thousands of ships, millions of weapons, entire worlds converted into military bases. It did seem like excessive preparation for fighting an enemy that was already extinct. Admiral, he said slowly, I think the real question is whether the galaxy can afford not to have this level of protection. And if we decide we do not want it? Jinho was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that would be remembered in alien military academies for the next 1,000 years. Admiral, you already made that choice when you asked us for help. The humans you invited to save your galaxy are the same humans who are protecting it now. We did not change. You just learned who we really are. The alien fleet turned around and left without firing a shot. But Jinho knew they would be back with reinforcements. The galaxy was starting to understand that their salvation had come at a price they were only beginning to comprehend. On Earth, in a small apartment overlooking the Pacific Ocean, an old man named Park Dong-woo was writing in his journal. He had been a soldier during the border wars. The Nexus cluster had once been the most beautiful region in the galaxy. 7. Star systems connected by natural hyperspace lanes, filled with ancient worlds that sparkled like jewels. Now it was the site of the largest military gathering in galactic history. The Void Swarm had concentrated its entire force here. Over 3 million ships of every size, from tiny fighters to mobile factories the size of moons. They covered space, so completely that the stars themselves were blocked out. This was their final push toward the galactic core, where billions of aliens waited to die. The remaining alien fleets had also gathered at Nexus. Every ship that could still fight, every weapon that could still fire, every brave soul willing to make a last stand. Admiral Torkan commanded the combined alien forces from his rebuilt flagship, knowing that he was about to watch civilization end. All ships, prepare for final battle, he broadcast to the fleet. 2,000 alien vessels spread out in defensive formations around the cluster's edge. They had enough firepower to destroy planets, but against 3 million swarm ships, they might as well have been throwing rocks. "Sir, we are detecting hyperspace disturbances," reported his sensor officer. "Something big is coming." "How big?" Torkan asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Sir, I think it is everything." Space itself seemed to tear open as the human armada emerged from hyperspace. The Sol Supremacy came first, its bulk eclipsing entire star systems. Behind it came wave after wave of warships, each one designed for one purpose: total destruction. Admiral Songmin's voice filled every communication channel in the cluster. "This is the United Earth Defense Force. We are here to end this war." Torkan stared at his sensors, trying to count the human ships. His computers gave up after reaching 50,000. The humans had brought their entire military force, every ship, every weapon, every soldier they possessed. "Human fleet, this is Admiral Torkan," he said over the radio. "The swarm outnumbers you 6-1. "Admiral," Songmin replied. And his voice was calm as death itself. "You are thinking like someone who fights fair wars. We do not fight fair wars. We fight wars we win." The human fleet spread across the cluster in a formation that made no tactical sense to any alien observer. Instead of concentrating their forces or protecting supply lines, they seemed to be surrounding the entire region. It looked like they planned to fight everything at once. Captain Tae-young was aboard his new command ship, the battlecruiser Incheon's Thunder. His orders were simple: lead the assault wave and break enemy formations. His ship was covered with scars from previous battles, and his crew was ready for anything. "All weapons armed," he reported to Admiral Songmin. "Ready to begin the dance. Remember, Captain, we are not trying to capture territory or preserve resources. We are here to make the swarm extinct." "Understood, sir. No mercy, no prisoners, no survivors." Tae-young's ship accelerated toward the densest concentration of swarm vessels. Behind him came thousands of other attack ships, their weapons charging for the greatest display of firepower the galaxy had ever seen. The swarm detected the human approach and began adapting their defenses. Torkan watched as enemy ships changed, their armor configurations and shield frequencies to counter previous human tactics. The swarm had learned from every battle, and they thought they were ready. They were wrong. The first human volley was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Instead of precise energy beams or guided missiles, the humans fired everything at once. Kinetic rounds, plasma bolts, gravitational bombs, reality-warping torpedoes, and weapons that had no names because they defied known physics. The space between fleets became a storm of destruction. Swarm ships tried to adapt to the incoming fire, but there were too many different types of weapons attacking in too many different ways. Every time they adjusted to counter one threat, 5 new types of death arrived to destroy them. "Impossible," whispered Torkan. "No one fights like this." "Humans, too," said his tactical officer who was watching the battle displays with horror and fascination. "They are not trying to be efficient. They are trying to be overwhelming." Dr. Yunji watched the battle from her mobile laboratory ship as her signal jammers went online. Across the cluster, her devices began broadcasting interference patterns that disrupted swarm communications. "Jamming field activated," she reported to Admiral Songmin. "Swarm coordination is dropping by 60%. The effect was immediate. Swarm ships that had been working together in perfect harmony suddenly became confused and disorganized. Units that should have been supporting each other started flying in random directions. Entire fleets broke apart as individual ships lost contact with the collective intelligence. "It is working," Yunji said excitedly. "They cannot adapt to our attacks if they cannot talk to each other." But the swarm was not defenseless. Even without perfect coordination, 3 million ships was still 3 million ships. They began launching their own massive assault, sending clouds of fighters and bombers toward the human fleet. Commander Nari was ready for them. Her infiltration teams had spent weeks planting surprises throughout swarm-controlled space. Now she activated them all at once. "Detonate all charges," she ordered. Across dozens of star systems, planet-killer bombs exploded inside swarm factories and command centers. Entire worlds that had been building enemy ships suddenly vanished in balls of nuclear fire. Supply lines that had fed the swarm war machine were cut in seconds. "Supply bases destroyed," Nari reported. "The enemy cannot reinforce or resupply." Admiral Songmin watched the tactical displays as the battle developed. The swarm was fighting desperately, but they were fighting like a body with its nervous system severed. Individual units were dangerous, but they could not coordinate effective strategies. "Phase 2, he ordered. The second wave of human ships was even larger than the first. These were not fast attack vessels. They were siege platforms designed to destroy everything in sight. Mobile battle stations the size of cities opened fire with weapons that cracked space itself. The Busan's Eternal fired its main gun once. The energy beam was visible from neighboring star systems, and when it hit the largest swarm factory ship, both vessels simply stopped existing. They did not explode or break apart. They were deleted from reality. Torkan could not believe what he was seeing. "They have weapons that unmake matter itself," he said to his crew. "How is this possible?" "Sir, should we retreat?" "Retreat to where? If the humans lose this battle, nowhere in the galaxy will be safe from the swarm. And if the humans win..." He did not finish the sentence, but everyone understood. If the humans won using weapons like this, they would be the undisputed masters of the galaxy. The battle raged for 18 hours. Human ships fought with a savagery that terrified even their allies. When a ship was damaged beyond repair, its crew would ram it into the nearest enemy vessel, rather than abandon it. When ammunition ran low, captains used their ships themselves as weapons. Captain Tae-young's battlecruiser was down to its last missiles when a swarm dreadnought tried to ram him. Instead of evading, he accelerated directly toward the enemy ship. "Sir, what are you doing?" his pilot asked. "Showing them how humans say goodbye," Tae-young replied. The collision destroyed both ships, but the explosion also took out 6 other swarm vessels that were too close to escape. Tae-young's crew had died, but they had taken dozens of enemies with them. This scene repeated across the battlefield. Human forces fought with a combination of advanced technology and primitive fury that the swarm could not adapt to. They used cutting-edge weapons like clubs and treated starships like expendable ammunition. As the battle entered its final phase, the swarm began a desperate retreat. But Admiral Songmin was not interested in letting them escape. "All ships pursue and destroy," he ordered. "No swarm unit leaves this cluster alive." The human fleet spread out in a hunting formation that covered entire solar systems. Every escape route was blocked. Every hiding place was searched. Every swarm ship was tracked down and destroyed. Dr. Yunji deployed her final weapon, a computer virus that made the remaining swarm units forget their primary programming. Instead of trying to survive and spread, they began dismantling themselves. The swarm collective intelligence is collapsing, she reported. They are forgetting how to exist. When the battle finally ended, the Nexus cluster was silent except for the hum of human engines. 3 million swarm ships had been reduced to scrap metal floating in the void. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever known was extinct. Admiral Songmin stood on his bridge and looked at the aftermath. His fleet had lost over 10,000 ships, but they had saved the galaxy. The cost in human lives was terrible, but the alternative would have been the death of every living thing in known space. "Signal all human forces," he said. "Mission accomplished. The swarm is extinct." From his distant observation post, Admiral Torkin watched the human fleet begin salvage operations. They were already breaking down swarm wreckage and turning it into new ships and weapons. Even in victory, they were preparing for the next war. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he told his communications officer. "Tell them the Void Swarm is dead. Tell." The Armada of Doom arrived at the Centauri Junction like a storm made of metal and fire. Admiral Songmin's fleet had grown to over 50,000 ships, and they kept coming through hyperspace portals that never seemed to stop opening. Ambassador, Feltera watched from her observatory ship as vessels the size of cities emerged from the darkness. Some were warships bristling with weapons. Others were mobile factories that could strip mine entire planets in days. A few were so large that they had their own gravity fields. "How is this possible?" she whispered to herself. Her answer came when the largest ship of all arrived. The Sol Supremacy was not just Admiral Songmin's new flagship. It was a mobile planet. Its construction bays were building new ships, even as it traveled through space. Its factories were producing ammunition faster than most civilizations could count it. "Greetings, Ambassador," said Songmin when she called his bridge. Behind him, she could see officers managing more information than entire planetary governments handled in a year. "Admiral, how many ships do you have?" she asked. This moment, 57,412 combat vessels, plus support ships, construction platforms, mobile bases, and specialized equipment. The number changes every hour as we build more. Veltara felt dizzy. The entire Galactic Council fleet had maybe 10,000 ships spread across the whole galaxy. The humans had built 6 times that many in just a few weeks. Where did they all come from? Songmin's smile was colder than space itself. "Ambassador, did you really think Earth only had one small fleet? We have been preparing for war since the day we learned we were not alone in the universe." On the surface of Kepler Prime, General Wansik was turning a peaceful farming world into a fortress. Human engineering teams worked without stopping, building weapons platforms that rose from the ground like metal mountains. The local aliens watched in fear and amazement as their quiet planet became the most heavily defended world in galactic history. Antimatter cannons that could destroy battleships pointed toward space from every continent. Shield generators powerful enough to protect entire cities hummed with energy. "General," said the planet's governor, a worried-looking alien with too many eyes, "surely this is not necessary. This world has no strategic value." Wansik looked at him with the patience of a teacher explaining something to a slow child. "Governor, every world has strategic value to someone who thinks completely. This planet has farmland, which means food. It has minerals, which means materials. It has space, which means room for more bases. But the defenses are so extensive." "The defenses are adequate," Wansik corrected. "If the Void Swarm comes here, they will find a planet that shoots back." Around the planet, orbital stations were being built at incredible speed. Each station carried enough firepower to level mountains. They were connected by energy bridges that could share power and coordinate attacks. In 1 month, Kepler Prime had become more dangerous than most star systems. The governor watched a new orbital platform being assembled. It was larger than his capital city. "What if the swarm does not come here? Then we will use this base to attack the swarm somewhere else," Wansik said simply. "Either way, the galaxy becomes a safer place." Commander Nari was leading her infiltration teams deep into swarm-controlled space. Her ships were small and fast, designed to sneak past enemy sensors and plant devastating surprises. Target acquired. she told her team as they approached a swarm factory world. The planet had once been beautiful, but now it was covered with metal structures that never stopped building new enemy ships. "What is the plan?" asked Lieutenant Bora, Nari's demolitions expert. "We plant planet-killer missiles in their main factories," Nari said. "When they explode, the chain reaction will destroy the entire world." "Is that not a bit extreme?" Nari looked at her through the ship's window. In the distance, they could see a new swarm dreadnought taking shape in one of the orbital factories. "It would be finished in a few days, and then it would go destroy some innocent alien world." "The swarm does not take prisoners," Nari said. "They do not negotiate or show mercy. They eat everything in their path. Extreme responses are the only kind that work." Her team nodded. They had seen what the swarm did to captured worlds. Everyone and everything became food for the growing machine intelligence. The only way to save lives was to destroy the swarm completely. "Deploy the charges," Nari ordered. Her ships scattered across the system, each one carrying weapons that could crack continents. The swarm defenses were strong, but they were designed to stop armies, not small teams of specialists who knew exactly where to strike. Dr. Yunji was aboard the research vessel Busan's Knowledge when she made her most important discovery. The Void Swarm was not just one intelligence. It was millions of small minds working together like cells in a body. "Computer, show me the analysis of swarm communication patterns," she said. The screen displayed a web of signals connecting swarm units across hundreds of star systems. Every unit was constantly talking to every other unit, sharing information and coordinating attacks. "That is their strength," she said to her assistant, Dr. Jiangsu. "But it is also their weakness." "How so?" "If you can disrupt their communication, they become just individual units instead of a coordinated army. Like cutting the nerves in a body, the pieces stop working together." Yunji began designing a new weapon, not a virus this time, but a signal jammer that could block swarm communications across entire sectors. If it worked, human forces could fight isolated swarm units instead of the entire collective intelligence. "Begin construction immediately," she told the ship's fabrication units. "And make a lot of them. We will need to jam the entire galaxy at once." Admiral Songmin stood in the command center of Sol Supremacy and studied the tactical displays. The swarm controlled over 300 star systems, but they were spread thin trying to defend everything at once. "Captain Minho, what is our current strength?" he asked. 87,000 combat ships, sir. Plus support vessels, the number is over 200,000, and growing every hour. Industrial capacity? We can replace any losses faster than the enemy can inflict them. Our mobile factories are producing new ships faster than we can train crews. Songmin nodded. This was the human way of war. They did not just fight with what they had, they built more while fighting. Every battle made them stronger instead of weaker. "Signal the fleet," he said. "We begin the grand offensive in 72 hours. What should I tell the aliens? Tell them to stay out of our way, this will get messy." On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was in emergency session again. But this time, they were not discussing the Void Swarm, they were discussing their human allies and whether the cure was worse than the disease. "They have militarized 17 star systems without asking permission," said Council Leader Mordak. "They are building weapons platforms on worlds that belong to sovereign governments." "They are protecting those worlds," argued Ambassador Veltara. "The Cathara system is now completely safe from swarm attack. But at what cost? The humans control every ship that enters or leaves. They have turned a peaceful trading hub into a military fortress." "A military fortress that is still alive," Veltara pointed out. "Unlike the 12 systems the swarm has already consumed." "That is not the point," said another council member. "The humans are not just fighting the swarm. They are conquering territory. Look at this." The chamber's main screen showed a map of human fleet positions. Red dots marked swarm-controlled space. Blue dots showed where human forces were operating. The blue dots were spreading faster than the red ones had ever spread. "They have more ships than the rest of the galaxy combined," someone said quietly. "And they are building more every day," added another voice. Mordak looked tired and old. 20 years ago, they had fought the humans and barely escaped destruction. Now they had invited the humans back, and the results were exactly what anyone should have expected. What choice did we have? He asked the room. Let the swarm eat the galaxy? Perhaps, said a small voice from the back. We should have asked the humans to be more gentle. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew it was too late for that. The human war machine was moving, and nothing in the galaxy was powerful enough to stop it. Send a message to Admiral Songmin, Mordak said finally. Ask him to minimize collateral damage. And if he refuses? Then we pray that when this is over, the humans remember that we asked for their help instead of demanding it. Far away, Captain Jinho was watching the largest swarm fleet ever assembled gather for what looked like a final assault on the galactic core worlds. Millions of enemy ships were forming into attack formations that stretched across entire solar systems. Sir, should we retreat? Asked his pilot. There are too many to count. Jinho looked at the display showing human fleet positions. Admiral Songmin's armada was moving to intercept the swarm, and the numbers were almost equal. Almost. No, he said. We stay and watch. This is going to be the greatest battle in galactic history. Are you sure we can win? Jinho thought about the weapons he had seen being loaded onto human ships. Planet killers were considered standard ammunition now. The humans had brought enough firepower to destroy every world in the galaxy twice over. The real question, he said, is whether there will be anything left when we are finished. The Kythera system was dying. 3 planets burned while void swarm ships covered the sky like metal clouds. The local defense fleet was trying to fight back, but their weapons were useless. Every shot they fired just made the swarm stronger. Admiral Torkan of the Kythera Defense Force was watching his people die. His flagship was damaged and leaking air. Half of his ships were already gone. The rest would not last another hour. Sir, we are getting a message from something big, said his communications officer. How big? Torkan asked. I do not know, sir. The sensors cannot measure it properly. Then space itself seemed to break open. A hole appeared in the darkness, and something came through that made Torkan's heart stop. It was a ship, but calling. A ship was like calling a mountain a small rock. The human dreadnought, Incheon Rising, was 5 kilometers long and covered with weapons. Behind it came more ships, destroyers, cruisers, carriers, and things that had no names because no one had ever built anything like them before. This is Admiral Songmin of the United Earth Defense Force, came a voice over the radio. We received your call for help. Torkan could not speak. He had expected maybe a dozen human ships. Instead, he was looking at a fleet that could conquer entire galaxies. Human ships, there are too many swarm units, Torkan finally managed to say. You should run before they adapt to your weapons. Songmin's laugh came through the radio like the sound of breaking glass. Admiral, with respect, you do not understand humans very well. We did not come here to run. The human fleet spread out in a formation that made no sense to Torkan. They were not protecting anything. They were not trying to be efficient. They looked like they were planning to fight everything in the system at once. All ships, Songmin said on an open channel. Weapons free. Show them how Earth's children say hello. What happened next would be talked about in alien military schools for the next 1,000 years. The human ships did not fire carefully aimed shots. They did not try to disable enemy systems or capture territory. They simply unleashed destruction on a scale that the galaxy had never seen. Missiles filled the space between planets. Energy beams turned swarm ships into glowing metal clouds. Kinetic rounds moving at nearly light speed punched holes through anything they hit. The humans were not fighting a battle. They were erasing everything in their path. The swarm tried to adapt. Torkan watched as enemy ships changed their armor and shields to defend against human weapons. But every time they adapted to one type of attack, the humans switched to something completely different. Why do they keep changing weapons? Asked Torkan's tactical officer. Because they can, Torkan whispered. The human flagship, Busan's Fury, was bigger than most space stations. When Admiral Songmin invited Ambassador Veltara aboard for a diplomatic meeting, she thought she was prepared for anything. She was wrong. The ship's corridors were wide enough to march armies through. The walls were covered with screens showing the locations of thousands of other ships. Weapons that could crack planets were stored in rooms the size of cities. "Welcome. Aboard," Songmin said when she reached his command center. He was a small man with gray hair, but when he looked at her, Veltara felt like a mouse being studied by a hawk. "Your ship is very large," she said carefully. "This is not our largest ship," Songmin replied. "Would you like to see the fleet roster?" A screen lit up showing the positions of human ships throughout the galaxy. Veltara counted the dots and felt sick. There were not hundreds of human ships. There were not thousands. There were tens of thousands, and more were arriving every hour. "How many ships do you have?" she asked. "Enough," Songmin said. "The real question is whether you understand what you have asked us to do. We asked you to help us fight the Void Swarm." Songmin pointed to another screen that showed the battle still raging outside. Human ships were systematically destroying everything in the system: swarm ships, swarm factories, and even asteroids that might contain swarm materials. "This is how humans help," he said. "We do not try to minimize damage or preserve enemy resources. We end threats completely." Veltara watched as a human ship deliberately crashed into a swarm factory, destroying both vessels. The human crew had sacrificed themselves just to ensure the enemy facility was completely eliminated. "Your people are very brave," she said. "Bravery has nothing to do with it," Songmin replied. "We are thorough." Captain Tae Young commanded the destroyer Daegu's Revenge. His mission was simple: find swarm ships and make them stop existing. His methods were not simple at all. Instead of fighting at long range like sensible commanders, Tae Young flew his ship directly into enemy formations. His guns were blazing as he passed through clouds of enemy fighters, destroying everything around him. "Captain, this is insane," his weapons officer shouted over the noise of explosions. "No," Tae Young said calmly. "This is effective." The swarm ships were trying to adapt to his attacks, but adaptation required understanding the enemy's strategy. Tae Young had no strategy except violence. He shot at anything that moved, rammed ships that got too close, and used his own vessel as a weapon when necessary. His ship's armor was designed to survive atmospheric re-entry. Flying through a cloud of enemy fighters was barely more dangerous than landing on a planet. Meanwhile, the swarm units were so confused by his tactics that they started shooting at each other by mistake. "Sir, the aliens are asking us to be more careful," said his communications officer. "They want us to preserve infrastructure." "Tell them we are being careful," Tae Young replied as he launched every missile his ship carried at a swarm command vessel. "We are carefully destroying everything the enemy might use." Dr. Yoonji was aboard the research ship Soul's Pride when her experiments finally worked. She had spent weeks creating a weapon that did not destroy the swarm. It confused them. The entropy virus was a computer program disguised as tactical data. When swarm units scanned it, they thought they were learning about new human weapons. Instead, they were downloading instructions that made them forget how to work properly. "Launching the virus now," she told Commander Nari over the radio. Small pods shot out from her ship toward the nearest swarm fleet. The pods looked like escape vehicles from destroyed human ships. The swarm units captured them eagerly, thinking they contained valuable information about human technology. Within minutes, entire swarm fleets began acting strangely. Ships that were supposed to work together started attacking each other. Factories began building random objects instead of weapons. Command vessels sent their fleets flying in circles. "It is working," Yoonji said excitedly. "The swarm is trying to adapt to weapons that do not exist. They are adapting themselves into uselessness." From the bridge of Busan's Fury, Admiral Songmin watched as the Cathera system was cleansed of swarm presence. Every enemy ship was destroyed. Every swarm factory was reduced to scrap metal. Even the space dust had been cleaned up by human industrial ships. "System secured," reported Captain Minho. "No swarm presence detected." "Good. Begin Phase 2. "What is Phase 2, sir?" Songmin smiled his terrible smile. "We turn this system into a fortress. If the swarm wants it back, they will have to go through the entire human fleet." Around the system, construction ships were already arriving. Within days, the dead planets would be covered with weapons platforms. The asteroid belts would become missile factories. The space between planets would be filled with minefields and automated defense stations. Ambassador Velterra was still aboard the human flagship when she saw the construction begin. "You are building military bases in our territory," she said. "We are building defenses in territory we just liberated," Songmin corrected her. "Would you prefer we leave it undefended for the swarm to recapture?" Velterra had no answer for that. The humans had saved the Cathara system, but now they controlled it. She was beginning to understand that human help always came with a price. "What will you do next?" she asked. Songmin looked at the tactical displays showing swarm positions throughout the galaxy. There were so many red dots that they looked like a disease spreading through space. "Next we gather the full fleet," he said. "And then we go hunting." "How big is your full fleet?" "Big enough to make the swarm regret existing." As Velterra was transported back to her own ship, she sent an emergency message to the Galactic Council. The message was short and terrifying. "The humans are helping us. May the stars forgive us all." Dr. Yunji had not slept for 3 days. Her laboratory on Mars was full of strange machines and alien samples. The pieces of void swarm that the aliens had sent her were sitting in a special box that kept them from growing. She looked at the samples through her microscope and felt sick. The void swarm was not really alive, but it was not really a machine either. It was something new and horrible. Every tiny piece could think and learn and change itself. "Computer, play recording 7. Again," she said. The screen showed what happened when alien weapons hit the swarm. The first shot did some damage. The second shot did less. By the third shot, the swarm pieces just absorbed the energy and got stronger. "It learns too fast," Yunji said to herself. "Every attack teaches it how to defend better." She picked up another sample with her metal tools. This piece was different. It had fought human weapons during a small test battle. When she looked at it, she saw something interesting. The sample was confused. It had tried to learn from human attacks, but human weapons worked in ways that made no sense. Most alien weapons were clean and precise. They used energy beams or smart missiles that hit exactly where they were supposed to hit. Human weapons were messy and violent. They exploded in random patterns. They shot chunks of metal in all directions. They did not care what they hit as long as they broke something. The swarm sample had tried to adapt to human chaos, but you cannot adapt to something that has no pattern. It was like trying to learn how to breathe water. Yunji smiled for the first time in days. She had found something important. The swarm's greatest strength was also its weakness. It learned too much, too fast. If she could make it learn the wrong things, it might break itself. She started typing on her computer. Her fingers moved so fast they were just a blur. She was designing something new, not a weapon that would destroy the swarm, but a weapon that would confuse it until it forgot how to work. Far away, Captain Jinho was flying his ship through empty space. The Soul's shadow was built for hiding. It could sneak past enemy sensors without being seen. Jinho had been watching the void swarm for 2 weeks, and what he saw made his blood cold. The swarm had eaten an entire solar system. Where 5 planets used to orbit a yellow sun, there were now massive metal structures that built new swarm ships. The factories never stopped working. Every hour, dozens of new ships flew out to find more worlds to eat. "Look at that," said his pilot, a young woman named Subin. She pointed at the biggest factory. It was the size of a moon, and it was making something huge. "What do you think that is?" Jinho looked through his telescope. The new ship being built was larger than anything he had ever seen. It had enough guns to destroy a planet and armor thick enough to stop any weapon the aliens had. "That is trouble," he said. "Send a message to Luna Command. Tell them the swarm is building super ships now." "How big is big?" Subin asked. Jinho measured the ship with his computers. The numbers made him feel small. 30 kilometers long, maybe 40. It could carry 1,000,000 swarm units. Should we try to stop it? Jinho laughed, but there was no humor in it. "With what? Our ship has enough firepower to destroy a city. That thing could eat our ship and not even notice." But as he watched the swarm work, Jinho saw something useful. The swarm was very organized. Every ship had a job. Every factory built exactly what was needed. There was no waste, no random behavior, no mistakes. That was their weakness, Jinho realized. The swarm was too perfect. It could not handle chaos or surprise attacks. If human forces could hit them in ways they did not expect, the swarm might fall apart. He started making notes about swarm patrol patterns and factory schedules. This information would be very useful when the real fighting started. Back in the Wan solar system, Commander Nari was watching the secret shipyards come to life. For 50 years, humans had been building warships in hidden places. Some were inside asteroids. Others were on the dark side of moons. A few were floating in empty space disguised as space junk. Now all of them were working at full speed. The sound of construction never stopped. Sparks flew as workers welded armor plating. Giant cranes lifted weapons that could destroy cities. Computer screens showed the progress as humanity's secret fleet grew larger every day. "How many ships will we have?" asked Colonel Jeho, Nari's second in command. Nari checked her tablet. The numbers kept growing. "By next month, we will have 8,000 combat ships, plus support vessels, supply ships, and mobile bases." The aliens asked for help. "Are we giving them too much help?" Nari looked out the window at a battleship being built. It was covered with missile launchers and energy cannons. Its armor was thick enough to survive flying through a star. There is no such thing as too much help when you are fighting for survival. What if the aliens get scared of us? They should be scared of us, Nari said. We are about to show the galaxy what happens when you wake up sleeping humans. But they will be alive to be scared, and that is what matters. She walked to another window where she could see Earth in the distance. The blue planet looked peaceful from here, but Nari knew better. Every continent was busy making weapons and training soldiers. Every city had factories working day and night. Every person was ready to fight. General Wansik was coordinating with human colonies throughout the galaxy. There were not many of them. Humans had only been traveling to other stars for 100 years. But each colony was like a fortress. "New Sol Colony reports all defensive systems online," said Major Kyung-ho. "They have enough weapons to fight off any invasion." "Good. What about the mining colonies?" "They are switching from mining metals to making ammunition. The asteroid belt colonies can produce 50,000 missiles per day." Wansik nodded. This was how humans fought wars. They did not just send armies. They turned entire civilizations into weapons. Every factory became a military supply center. Every ship became a potential warship. Every person became a soldier. The aliens had asked for help against something that ate planets. They were about to learn that humans could do more than eat planets. They could turn planets into weapons. "Sir," said another officer, "we are getting reports from scout ships. The void swarm is bigger than the aliens told us." "How much bigger?" "Maybe 10 times bigger. They have millions of ships spread across hundreds of systems." Wansik smiled. "Then we will need to build more ships." As night fell on Luna Command, Admiral Songmin stood in his office looking at star charts. Red dots showed where the void swarm had been seen. Blue dots showed where human forces were gathering. The red dots covered a huge area of space. The swarm was like a disease spreading through the galaxy. But Songmin was not worried. He had fought worse enemies than machines that learned from their mistakes. His aide, Captain Minho, brought him a cup of coffee. "The fleet will be ready in 1 month," Minho said. "Make it 3 weeks," Songmin replied. "The aliens are dying while we talk." "Sir, some of our allies are asking questions about why we are building so many ships so fast." Songmin turned away from the star charts. His eyes were hard as stone. "Tell them we received a request for help. We are going to help. Completely. Should we tell them about the Armada of Doom? No. Let it be a surprise. The galaxy will see it soon enough." Songmin went back to studying the charts. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were dying while the void swarm ate their worlds. But humans were coming, and they were bringing enough firepower to crack the universe in half. The aliens had begged for help. They were about to get more help than they could possibly imagine. The huge chamber on Nexus Prime was full of scared voices. Hundreds of alien beings from different worlds sat around the giant table, all talking at once. Their languages mixed together in a mess of fear and panic. Ambassador Veltara stood at the center of the room. Her blue skin was pale with worry. She had traveled from the Luminary homeworld to bring terrible news. Her hands shook as she held up a small device that showed pictures of destroyed planets. "The Void Swarm has taken 12 worlds," she said. Her voice was quiet, but everyone could hear her. The room went silent. They move from system to system like hungry beasts. Nothing stops them. Our weapons do nothing. The picture showed planets that once had cities and forests. Now they were just gray metal balls covered in strange machines. The Void Swarm ate everything: rocks, plants, people, even the air. Then, it turned it all into more of itself. Council leader Mordak was an old alien with 4 arms and skin like tree bark. He had seen many wars, but this scared him more than anything. "How long do we have?" he asked. 2 months before they reach the core worlds, Veltara answered. "Maybe less. They learn from every fight. Our ships attack them and they just get stronger." A small alien with big eyes started crying. "My people tried to run. The swarm followed us across 3 star systems. There is nowhere to hide." Mordak looked around the room. Every face showed the same thing. They were going to die and they knew it. The greatest minds in the galaxy had tried everything. New weapons, better shields, faster ships. Nothing worked. "There is one option we have not tried," Mordak said slowly. "But it might be worse than the swarm itself." The room got very quiet. Everyone knew what he meant. In the far edge of the galaxy, on a planet called Earth, lived the humans. They were the only species that everyone feared more than they feared death. Earth was a death world. Most planets that had life were peaceful places with gentle weather and friendly animals. Earth had storms that could destroy cities, animals that ate other animals, and diseases that killed for fun. Somehow, humans had survived and become the most dangerous species anyone had ever seen. The galaxy had fought humans once, 20 years ago. It was called the Border Wars. The humans won so fast and so completely that everyone agreed to leave them alone. They built a big barrier around human space and told everyone to stay away. "You want to ask the Deathworlders for help?" asked a tall alien with tentacles instead of arms. "That is like asking fire to put out fire." "The humans are violent and cruel," said another. "They enjoy fighting. They make weapons for fun." Veltara looked at the pictures of dead worlds again. "What choice do we have? We are already dead. At least the humans are still alive." Mordak pressed a button on his chair. A screen showed the edge of human space marked with warning signs in hundreds of languages. All the signs said the same thing: "Stay away. Dangerous species. No contact allowed." "I will send the message," Mordak said. "May the stars forgive us." On the other side of the galaxy, Ambassador Hyunwoo Park was eating breakfast in his small office. He was the only human allowed to talk to aliens, and he had been alone for 10 years. Most days, nobody wanted to talk to him at all. His computer made a sound. Someone was calling him. This was very strange. The aliens usually avoided humans like a bad disease. Hyunwoo pressed a button and Mordak's face appeared on the screen. The old alien looked terrible, like he had not slept for weeks. "Human ambassador," Mordak said. "We need your help." Hyunwoo almost dropped his coffee. In 10 years, no alien had ever asked humans for anything except to go away. "What kind of help?" "There is something eating our worlds. We cannot stop it. We are going to die unless someone saves us." Hyunwoo listened as Mordak explained about the Void Swarm. He looked at the pictures of dead planets. He heard about weapons that did not work and fleets that were destroyed. When Mordak finished talking, Hyunwoo was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a wolf that smells fresh meat. "So you want us to help you fight something that eats planets and learns from every battle?" "Yes," Mordak said. We know humans are good at fighting. We will pay anything. Give you anything. Please. Hyunwoo thought about his home on Earth. He thought about Admiral Songmin and the fleets that nobody knew about. He thought about weapons that could crack moons and ships that could carry armies. I will ask my people, he said, but I should warn you about something. What? When humans help someone, we do it completely. We do not do small jobs or gentle solutions. If we come to help you, we will end this war, but we will do it our way. Mordak nodded quickly. Yes, anything, just please help us. After the call ended, Hyunwoo sat in his chair and laughed. The aliens had no idea what they were asking for. They thought humans were dangerous before. They were about to learn why Earth was really called a death world. He opened a special communication channel that he had not used in years. It connected directly to Luna Command, where the real power of humanity waited in the dark. Admiral Songmin, he said when the connection opened. We have a job. On the moon, Admiral Songmin looked up from his reports. He was a short man with gray hair, but his eyes were sharp like knives. Around him, the command center was full of screens showing ships and weapons that most humans did not even know existed. What kind of job? Songmin asked. The aliens want us to save their galaxy from something that eats planets. Songmin was quiet for a moment. Then he started pressing buttons on his desk. All around Luna Command, lights began turning on. People started running to their posts. Computers began calculating how many ships they would need. How big is this threat? Songmin asked. Bigger than anything we have fought before, and it learns. Songmin smiled the same wolf smile that Hyunwoo had used. Good. It has been too quiet lately. The fleet needs some exercise. Sir, should I tell the aliens we will help them? Tell them we received their message, Songmin said, and tell them that help is coming. But do not tell them how much help. Let it be a surprise. As Hyunwoo sent the message back to Nexus Prime, he wondered if the aliens would thank him later. Probably not. But they would be alive to complain, and sometimes that was the best you could hope for. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had been kept in quarantine. It was not to protect other species from human violence. It was to protect humans from having too much fun.